Hello. Good morning, Malcolm Nance.
Good morning, Steffi. How are you?
Well, I was just saying before we the break here. It feels like we could be edging, to this constitutional crisis we've been talking about. We were saying this is not only is even for him this a Twitter freak out of epic proportions. This is the first time he has forcefully called on Jeff Sessions to shut the Mueller probe down.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah. The funny part was I took one Uber ride from a calm morning, and by the time I got to a radio interview for NPR this morning, 6 minutes that tweet came out, and so I was already unprepared when I arrived. He is really at the absolute pinnacle of buggy. I mean, whatever's going on, Donald Trump feels now completely trapped. He must have some information from Rudy Giuliani that the jig is up and that there's confirming information that he coordinated and conspired with the Russians. There is no other reason that he would be so buggy the way that he is this morning.
yeah.
Load the pod.
No, I mean, Malcolm, and you and I obviously marinate in this stuff every day. And even for him, I mean, and as I was reading all the tweets, I mean, these are not just breathless, they are white knuckle, they are sheer panic. I mean,
Yeah.
and it makes you wonder, like, what is dropping today or tomorrow, right? Like, is it something from the Manafort trial? Is it. I mean, obviously, this. What was this yesterday? Bombshell new evidence offers some of the strongest evidence to date implicating Trump in obstruction. um, it's hard to know, right? Like what
It's
exactly?
it's,
Yeah,
it's impossible to know.
yeah,
Remember, we have to use the Rachel Maddow dictum. Anyone that tells you they know what's going on doesn't know. And what I really think is happening is Trump tends to get information about a week in advance. And I think Rudy has revealed something the other day when he made that statement about they're having a pre-planning meeting for meeting the Russians.
right.
And Cohen never said that. Cohen never even hinted that. And they're saying Lanny Davis said it, which means there may be evidence out there that he inadvertently released.
Yeah,
And now that information is coming to light. I don't think it's the Manafort trial because the only thing Manafort can do in this trial is flip, is to cut a deal about something he knows that's higher than his insane amounts of money laundering. And if that's the case, if Manafort's about to flip, or Trump that they inadvertently revealed a collusion and no, sorry, conspiracy
thank you.
planning meeting, then we definitely have a reason for him. But him asking for Sessions to shut it down, here we are. Because Sessions either has to quit, which I think Trump wants him to do, and then next thing you know, we'll have Attorney General nominee Jeanine Pirro uh, coming in to take his place.
Oh, good God. Um, Malcolm, it's interesting what you just said about, could that be the cause of the bugginess, Manafort flipping? Because obviously the common wisdom has been he's afraid of getting killed by Russia, so he's not going to flip, or he's expecting a pardon.
Well, the Manafort case is different. People need to learn how to differentiate this. This is not about the Trump campaign.
Right.
It's not about any coordination or conspiracy with the Russian government. It's his past that's on trial right now. He has stolen money from the United States government. He earned $70 million or so of illicit Russian and Ukrainian right wing money, crazy money, and then he floated that money. He hid it in foreign banks, paid no taxes on it, and stole the services of the United States government during that time, and then money laundered it again in the United States. That's bad. And that all occurred in New York State. So he can be pardoned all he wants, but he's going to prison at the end of this.
Yeah.
Period. They have him dead to rights.
Well,
He will want to parlay that into something greater, not a pardon, because a pardon is not absolute from him. He's got to talk to the people who know something, who want to know something about Trump, and that's Mueller.
yeah. You talked about Trump saying collusion's not a crime. You said I love the part in of the Law and Order where the criminal arrogantly confesses. I mean, you can feel the goalpost move every day, right? It's like, okay, there was collusion, but it's not a crime. And as you've said from day one, right? The legal term is conspiracy.
conspiracy. We should stop using it. I like the idea of starting to use coordination and and conspiracy, because it required a measure of coordination. But this is making them insane.
Yeah.
They are caught, and I think we're at the point where you have to, they have to choose to violate the Constitution now, using whatever legal levers that they can get away with, and they have muddied the waters enough to where their crazy voters will allow him to do anything at this point, and he has to take the chance that there will never be an impeachment articles brought against him,
Yeah.
which brings us to the part of our story every week where we talk about the upcoming election.
Yeah. Yep. Well,
And
by the way, you tweeted Facebook midterm attack plot is clearly a Russian false flag operation to stoke fears of Trump voters, fake Mexican radicals, black extremists, spiritualists, violent resistance groups. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can hope, Malcolm, is because of people like you and your books, we're smarter now, right? I mean, at least,
well,
yeah, go ahead.
I had a Glenn Greenwald supporter wrote the other day with this snarky sort of tone, which is always amusing when it comes from someone that supports Glenn Greenwald. It's like, you're trying to sell your books, and how is that ever going to assist us with Trump? And it's like, are you kidding? Are we so ignorant to understand that we would allow them to dominate the information space, to actually put into our heads what Donald Trump wants in our heads, rather than educate ourselves from the disaster that's coming? This Facebook thing, I don't know if anybody saw me last night on Ari Melber, but
Yeah.
I got into it with a professor from Harvard University who literally said that there was no evidence, or the little evidence, that the Russian interference in 2016 had any impact on the election. Well, we're
Ah,
living in the presidency of Donald Trump. So, right there, I can tell you there was an impact on the election. And of course, I had to throw a little shade, because we don't think like that in the intelligence community. We like to warn. We like to be, the Paul Revere's in this story, and to get the information out. But you have to educate yourself as well.
yep. Yep. You tweeted WikiLeaks is everything I've ever said about them, a Putin Trump cabal of alt right activists that use transparency to commit pro conservative influence propaganda operations for Moscow to elect Trump. Period.
WikiLeaks and Edward Snowden are one of the two great cons of the early 21st century. I mean, really, all of this, I'm letting information out. I worked at NSA, so I saw the stuff that he put out and how he destroyed people's careers, their lives, and endangered the American public for the sake of transparency. Then I saw him defect to Russia, okay, where right now he even works with the Russians. And, so that and WikiLeaks, which has now is the next round of indictments, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks leadership, whoever those subtle people are that work with them, they will be indicted, because they are the next tier of activities which led into this election, the election of 2016. They were the dissemination platform for it. And just because they're foreigners, look, if we can indict 12 GRU, Russian military intelligence officers by name, and then indict the entire Internet Research Agency of Russia, you can be pretty damn sure Julian Assange is going to be walking out of the Ecuadorian embassy in cuffs here real soon,
Mm-hmm.
because that guy was the virus that speciated this story, that spread all of this information, and that the media jumped onto by using their supposed legitimacy and credibility. Julian Assange is a hardcore alt writer,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
why Trump quoted him 160 times. If you saw online, they're putting out the WikiLeaks internal DMs,
Yeah.
direct messages, and
Yeah.
it shows this guy asked to be the Australian ambassador to the United States, and
Well,
expected a reward
it's
for all of
you
this.
know how he became Sean Hannity's best friend, right? Anything
Oh, his
that'll
bestest buddy,
hurt Hillary or hurt liberals. I mean, this poll just came out. Some
Assange
some
and Greenwald.
Republicans find Russian help in the midterms appropriate. This is where we are,
Appropriate.
Malcolm.
Yeah, and speaking of gaslighting, someone, I can't recall who it was on Twitter, and it was quite brilliant. They put out this whole study where they said, well, first there was no collusion,
Yeah.
then it was, well, collusion's not a crime, then it was, well, crimes are not crimes, and then it was, Well, we can conspire with foreign powers to rig elections in the United States. And let's start using this word. They cheated. And
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to
Yeah.
come out. And, look, you got me in shouty McShoutface mode.
There you go. Let me ask you two quick stories. You mentioned Giuliani. So, did you see he said their team is preparing a counter report to respond to Bob Mueller's report? Um, he said he expects Mueller to file a report as soon as September 1st. That could have something to do with the bugginess of the target, I guess. He said, "I don't think Mueller wants to be seen as interfering with the election." Again, you don't know what to believe from Rudy Giuliani's mouth.
No,
Obviously,
no.
Mueller's office declined to comment.
Don't believe anything from Rudy
Right.
Giuliani. He's trying to create a completely new goalpost by his design, on a date that he wants. He's trying to force Mueller's hand to get information and so he can counterattack in the public sphere. He's just a spokesman. He's not a lawyer by any means. So what we have here is I don't think Mueller's going to put out a report before next year
Right.
on obstruction of justice. That you're going after a president of the United States. But I do think that by September 1st, there will be another round of indictments. And
Mm-hmm.
my guess is it's going to be all of the next tier people up who coordinated with Russia, which is WikiLeaks, Roger Stone, quite possibly, Trump Jr. and some others.
Yeah.
Anyone who was involved in the Dirty Tricks campaign.
Yep.
People keep forgetting this critical point. Rick Gates, Mike Flynn are witnesses for the prosecution.
Yeah.
Mueller already knows everything that happened in all of those meetings.
Right.
He's waiting for people to lie and to, essentially talk themselves into prison.
Right. And now what I was saying, you were talking about obstruction could be last, but obviously there was a new explosive new report showing Bob Mueller in possession of highly incriminating evidence that implicates Trump in obstruction of justice. They wrote that previously undisclosed evidence, which his sources say includes highly confidential White House records and testimony by some of Trump's own top aides, offers some of the strongest evidence to date implicating the President of the United States in obstruction of
Sure.
justice. Yeah, they say that they're saying it is all but inevitable Mueller will make a report that the president broke the law, and that's just on that one part of it, obstruction, right?
Right. And, look, there's more to this than a report. Okay. The report goes to Congress so that it can be used as the basis of impeachment, which is a political process, which he can beat. And right now, he's in a pretty good position to beat the rap. But the question is, will Miller want to push for an indictment of the president of the United States because what he did was criminal?
Yeah.
That is where this game is going to be hardball. I mean,
Yeah.
and you
That's
expect
what I've
me to
always
start
said, Malcolm.
bugging out.
I don't I feel like if this is as big as, you and I certainly know or suspect that it is, I just don't think you're going to be able to go, okay, well, we'll just let you step down. I mean, yeah.
No,
Some
sure. This is not just going after him for obstruction. Obstruction was done because there was a giant Rico case out there that he did not want found out.
Yeah.
And remember, when Bob Mueller came into work, the first 16 people he hired were financial crimes prosecutors.
Yeah.
And that tells you obstruction of justice was just about his Russian ties, conspiracy with the campaign, the
Ooh.
people in his campaign. I mean, I'm telling you, everything else is money.
You just made my
And
ears perk up. Maybe it's the tax returns. Maybe that's why the target's so buggy
he's
this
had those
morning.
tax returns since last
No, I
November.
know,
We
but
all know that.
right, but I guess my point is what's about to break because obviously
Oh, well,
yeah,
what's generally is breaking is what Giuliani's leaking.
right.
Because Giuliani thinks he can still beat this court of public opinion game. And all I'm saying is this: we may be in dangerous waters here. We may be at the point where Trump goes from buggy to action, and we're in a constitutional crisis. Perhaps he wants to bring that on before the election as a base mobilization factor. I don't know, but all I know is y'all better be ready.
All I know is this is a good week for you to be here in person, 3 hours Friday, for us to have a date to go see you on Real Time with Bill Maher on Friday night, and then we have
Yeah,
another
that's
we have
great.
another date Saturday. We can't talk about it. It's so top secret.
Yeah. Well, this will be fun. But one last thing.
Yeah,
You people out there, Plot to Destroy Democracy is still holding on at number 8 on
yeah.
the New York Times bestsellers list. I am now out to get this some guy named Neil deGrasse Tyson off of the bestsellers list. But more importantly, you educate yourselves on this.
Yeah.
This is the single
It is a must
greatest
read.
investigation in
Yeah.
the history of the United States, and you need to know why Trump is behaving this way, and it's all in the book.
Yep, absolutely. A must read, will be taught in history class someday. Malcolm, see you in studio Friday morning.
All right, see you then.
All right, see ya.